Let's talk about the Bernie Bros.
Uh-oh.
Let's talk about that because I got called a Bernie Bro by a white woman, and it's interesting because the term Bernie Bros is usually meant to be thrown at the feet of white male Bernie Sanders supporters who don't realize their white privilege and don't realize some of the things they're saying is microaggression and racist, right? And so here I am calling out racism that I see in Hillary Clinton's campaign, and I have this white woman come and say, "Oh, you're just another Bernie bro," and I'm like, "Really? Do you really understand what you're saying when you're calling me a Bernie bro?" That's just one. Then there was a woman of color, I believe she's like half black, half Hispanic, doesn't matter. She's a woman of color who got called a Bernie bro by a white man. And I'm like, do you really have any idea how ridiculous you're sounding to the point where your newly minted pejorative Bernie bro absolutely means nothing anymore? And so I'm encouraging everybody out there, if somebody has called you, even if they haven't, yeah, damn right I'm a Bernie bro. I am a Bernie bro. I identify with Bernie Sanders. I believe in what he stands for way more, light years more than what Hillary Clinton stands for. And I'm not a you can't allow them to take these pejoratives and try to spook you with them like they try to say, oh, he's a socialist. No, I am a democratic socialist because once I realized what the ideology really was, this is far more me than just a Democrat. So I encourage everyone out there who's been called a Bernie bro, or whether or not you've been called a Bernie bro, that you just take that back, seize the power from the word, and call yourself a Bernie bro. I might personally say I'm a Bernie bruh. Right? You could say you're a Bernie bro. And Noah, have you run into any foolishness like that?
So yeah. So like Stacy and I from my mentor from yesterday from Down South and Dirty, Stacey Hopkins. One of the conversations we consistently have, because it's very, very interesting being a black person in progressive politics, whether no matter what candidate. And there seems to be this notion that somehow this is a Bernie only problem.
Right.
White people, progressive politics, black people, I mean, we're not absolved on the left from issues of racism and prejudice and things like that. Like, not at all. I mean, that goes back to, I mean, you know, supposed liberals and progressives founded this country, and yet and still, you know, we had the institution of slavery. You know, liberals and progressives sold us out to end Reconstruction to move forward and heal. I mean, we've been sold down the line, you know, so many times. So it's not, you know, and there are great words on the issues of white liberals and white moderates from Dr. King and Steve Biko. So this is not a new Bernie issue. This is an everybody issue. So in terms of Bernie bros, what I do see is that people are so particular. People don't want you talking about Hillary Clinton. It's all right-wing conspiracy. You know, she was first lady. You can't blame her for what Bill did, except Chip was on her, even though she was first lady. She didn't actually have a real position. So, I mean, you know, so it's on one hand, it's an overgeneralization. There's too much of a focus on what Bernie supporters do and say on social media, and no one says anything about the blatant misinformation and sometimes outright lies. I've had Hillary supporters, they use the same tactics that Donald Trump supporters use.
Yes.
They don't this use a socialist. We're now at the point where people call him a commie. I mean, like, really? What is this, the Red Scare? Like, what century are we in? What decade is this? But on the flip side, there is an issue, and I've said it. I had a Facebook rant about it yesterday. There is an issue with some of my fellow Bernie supporters who want to use every little thing, especially with this whole notion that there are no black people that support. So anytime any of us says something, and somehow that's proof, that's evidence that any of the criticism against Bernie is wrong. So we have to be. I really wish we had more balance. We have a so-called black intelligentsia. We have so-called black journalists, and again, these Twitter activists who feel like it's their duty to they represent all of blackness and have to, you know, admonish the good, you know, the bad white people because they don't get it. But I really feel like the overgeneralizations, in terms of when we're talking about the Bernie Sanders campaign, whether it's the Coates reparation stuff, all the way down to just the Black Lives Matter incidences that have happened, and let's, without looking at the nuances, like, this is not some academic exercise. This is not happening in a bubble. We're in the middle of a presidential campaign season, and only criticizing one candidate, it gives the impression to those who follow you and rely on you for information. Because let's just face it, Americans, a lot of us do not research and look for stuff ourselves. We rely on the TV, we rely on whatever talking head to give us information. And that framing, it really sets a tone for conversation. So the Bernie Bro phenomena, I mean, I think you have a lot of people in the Bernie Sanders camp. You know, we are pretty much a volunteer-driven movement. It's not like we're getting marching orders from the campaign or anything like that.
Right.
But there are some people who do kind of go overboard. I myself have had the same problem. I've had to talk to people about safe spaces for black people to have conversations. So, I mean, there is a conversation that needs to be had, but that's not a Bernie-only issue. You know, just like Hillary Clinton supporters, white and black, have this overly idealistic viewpoint of her liberalness and progressiveness on so many different issues that they often get things wrong. Like the fact that everyone wants to increase the minimum wage, it's a big difference, the fact that she is telling people that $12 is good enough and she doesn't want to go any further. It's a big difference that she claims that she's going to take on campaign finance reform, all the while her and her buddy Deborah Wasserman Schultz benefit from these exact rules. There's an October Huffington Post article that points out how it's very interesting, I'll use that word, that her super PACs are actually like the first ones to really exploit the removal of independent aggregate expenditure limits. Like George Soros just gave her $8 million.
Right.
No one's just dropping all that bank on you for no reason. I mean,
right.
So it goes both ways with the Bernie Bros thing. Like I don't think it's as huge of an issue, but they need something. They can't actually impugn the man's credibility, but they need something. And that's the thing for now.
And so what they do is they try to attack his supporters. They try to attack his surrogates, right? I've seen people attack Nina Turner. I've seen people attack.
Nina Turner has been called a traitor and everything else up and down, and she handles it effortlessly and with such grace. And she does not back down. And for everyone to agree that this is another person of high integrity, of great moral fiber, if she's saying that she has a heart and soul agreement and listening to Bernie Sanders speak, that is what brought her to his side. Well, I mean, you just got to accept it and keep it moving.
Right, and see, and that's the thing. So to echo what you're saying, there is a group of Bernie supporters who are overzealous. Right, they're overzealous to the point where, for example, when Michelle Alexander last week made her post about Hillary Clinton being like she couldn't believe that black people were supporting Hillary Clinton, the media in particular were ushering the black vote to Hillary Clinton, considering all the things that Hillary Clinton's fingerprints are on in the 90s that are detrimental to the black community. Everything she said was 100% correct, and then all of a sudden you had a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who just like flooded her, like, you know, you should endorse Bernie, like, come do this, and you know, so there is this overzealous community of Bernie Sanders supporters who we've talked about on the show quite a bit, where we need them to just dial it back a little, dial it back. But now they've gotten to the point of absurdity where everyone who has a valid critique, a visceral critique, an emotional, any type of critique whatsoever of Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, then they are automatically labeled a Bernie bro, regardless of the perspective from which they're giving that critique. Regardless if they're an African American who says, I like Obama, I support and I respect President Obama, but I can clearly articulate the problems with his administration, particularly for the black community and for just, you know, middle class poor people across the board. All of a sudden, you're a Bernie bro. So it's become absurd, and part of me wants to. You're not going to believe what I'm about to say. You're not going to believe what I'm about to say. Part of me wants to apologize to some Republicans for how imbecilic people are when they shut down conversations with stuff like, "Oh, you're just a racist," right? This attempt to shut down conversation with the pejorative. It happens from the right too, but they have been, you know, when you see it done by people who are ostensibly supposed to be more enlightened and on your side of the aisle, but they will turn the corner and do the same thing to you that they've been doing to Republicans for the last 8 years. Mind you, some of them are just racist. Mind you, some of them don't have a valid reason to critique President Obama, because if anything, President Obama has performed just as well as they would ever hope on the metrics that they need him to perform on. I mean, he's been a really great great Republican economic president, right? You know, he's outperformed Ronald Reagan on all the basic metrics that Republicans like. So yes, a lot of them are just racist. Some are just racist, and some of them have no reason whatsoever to criticize President Obama. However, that doesn't justify really simple-minded people shutting down legitimate debate by labeling anyone who disagrees with President Obama as a racist. And now that black people disagree with some of the things that President Obama has done, all of a sudden, oh, you're just a Bernie bro. So I would say, and this is another reason that more so than Hillary Clinton herself, because I know who Hillary Clinton is, more so than that, it's her supporters, and it's seeing them devolve and do the same exact thing that we expect from conservatives. They're using the same type of vitriol, same type of tactics. That makes me say, why would we ever want to support these type of people and empower them and embolden them to misrepresent what progressivism really is? Now, I'm off my rant. I want to give these results really quick from Ann Key and Kenny Caucus in Iowa. Marco Rubio